Welcome to a world where we fight to the finish, and at the heart of it is one recognizable image. Originators, titans of business, brand architects, respected since 9/7. Sky's the limit, and legend behind the logo.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 18 of MMA Talk Canada. Here with my good buddy, as always, Saad Sulman. And today we are breaking down UFC 161, which actually goes down on my birthday on June 15th in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, our home country. And this another injury-plagued card. You know, the main card was supposed to be very good. We were supposed to see Henan Brow versus Eddie Wineland for the interim belt. But that injury there, we were supposed to see Shogun fight in the card, but he got injured. But all in all, I think they managed to get a decent main card going. So hopefully the Manitoba fans can get some good fights here. Saad, what are your thoughts on the main card?
Well, first of all, before I even begin there, just wanted to say happy birthday to you in advance.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, okay. And secondly, although we can, I guess, compare this to UFC 149, where the fans kind of got screwed because they bought into an event hoping to see certain caliber fighters. You know what? It's not necessarily the case here because you're still getting good fights. And just as the last few 10 cards just happened last week, that is any indication, you never judge your card before it happens because you never know what's going to happen. If you look at the main card here, there's some good quality fights. And you know what? There's some guaranteed finishes and obviously entertaining. Like some of these fights, you just run down the list. Pat Barry, Sean Jordan. Don't tell me that's not going to be a slugfest. You know, Jimmo, Pokrachak, Alexis Davis. Like, these are names that are guaranteed fireworks, so it's going to be an exciting fight. Although it's not like, the hugest headliners, like, for example, Shogun. Shogun's a big, big name. And you know what? It's unfortunate that Little Nog had to get hurt and he had to get pulled out. But that's the game that we're in. Doesn't mean that they're not going to get their money's worth, because you know what? It's going to be an exciting card, and I'm really looking forward to it. Exactly.
I'm also looking forward to the preliminary card. We got my boy Sam Stout fighting James Krause. I see him winning that fight, second round TKO. And we also have a great headliner on the preliminary card. We got Jake Shields and Tyrone Woodley at welterweight. That's going to be a sick fight to end off the prelims. So actually right now we're going to start with the first fight in the main card. We got Pat Barry versus Sean Jordan. Now I see this fight being very exciting, very high-paced. But I believe Pat Barry will get the KO win here. I don't think Jordan will be able to do much, and I think that Barry's wrestling has improved enough to keep it standing, and I just don't think that that Sean Jordan has dealt with as good of a striker as Pat Barry yet, and I see Pat Barry getting a KO win in the second or third round, hopefully in the second, but I see this one being very exciting and possible fight night potential, as well as many of the other fights on the main card. So, Saad, how do you see this fight going down, this heavyweight battle?
Well, similarly, Barry is a man that needs no introduction. He's been a UFC mainstay for quite a long time, and he's known for his exciting fights and his exciting style of fighting. He's a perennial fan favorite, coming off an amazing knockout of Shane Del Rosario. Jordan is also a good fighter. Let's not count him out here. He's also coming off a win over Mike Russell. But this fight is definitely suited to Barry's style, who, as the saying goes, lives by the sword and dies by the sword. He either knocks somebody out or gets knocked out or submitted himself. You know what? This fight is definitely going to be a slugfest. I can honestly see it going either way, with Jordan potentially hitting Barry, because you know what? He's been susceptible to it, but you know what? He doesn't care. He still keeps coming forward, throwing the bombs. As long as he throws the bomb and lands first, I think Pat Barry's going to win. But it's going to be an exciting fight.
Yeah, that's a great fight to start off the main card on pay-per-view. So we get the next fight. We actually had a ladies' fight at 135. We got Alexis Davis versus Rossi Sexton. And actually, Alexis Davis is from our home province of Ontario. Born and raised, and she actually fights at Ontario. So it's pretty cool to see. So this fight here is really two submission fighters. I do see Davis getting the win here. I'm not just saying that just because she's Canadian. I do believe she's fought a little higher competition. She has big wins over Amanda Nunes and Julie Kedzie. And I just see Alexis Davis getting a big submission win here in front of a home country crowd. I see it being a pretty exciting fight, but as I said, I do see her getting a submission win, and hopefully a real. It'd be great to see her get the win in front of the whole crowd. So, Saad, how do you see the fight going down?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. This is the first women's fight in Canada in the UFC. Davis is actually used to fighting in Winnipeg. She's actually had a couple of fights here. So she's competed there before, so she might be familiar with how it is, maybe just getting around Winnipeg, that might help.
Mm-hmm.
Both fighters are actually really well-rounded, although they are based in grappling. They're both exciting fighters. For example, Alexis Davis, when she fought Sarah Kaufman, that was an epic fight. Epic fight.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? That was definitely fight of the night in any card you could possibly imagine. But honestly, this is going to be a pick-up fight. Although you said that Lucy Sexton actually has more experience, I would disagree because I think she has quite a lot of experience. She's faced people like Karina Dawn. She's faced Gina Carano. She's faced who's who. She's even faced Zola Burgel, the former Bellator champion. But although the only issue here is that she's going back up to bantamweight. She's fought at bantamweight before, but the thing is she's coming back up there after a little while, so it might be a little different. She's not, I guess, a natural bantamweight. Davis is. She's been fighting there for a very long time. So, honestly, what you'll see in the women's division, it's really hard to pick the fights because all of them are on very similar footing. For example, in fighting, I guess, acumen, they're all really good fighters. They all can strike as well as play the ground game. So it really comes down to, the inches. That doesn't mean that it's going to be a super technical fight. It's going to be an exciting, fast-paced fight. But the winner is obviously most likely going to win a decision, maybe a TKO. The only person that, I guess, stands shoulders above everyone else is, of course, Ronda Rousey.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, they're very similar fighters. I'm going to pick Davis here because she's Canadian. I have no problem announcing my biases, but I really look forward to this fight.
Awesome. That's going to be a great fight. So our next fight here, we got a light heavyweight battle. We got Ryan Jamu, the Canadian, versus Igor Pekrajcek. And now this is another fight, both coming off losses. But I do see Jamu winning this fight pretty easily. I think he overpowers Pekrajcek. I think he's going to dictate where the fight goes. Most likely standing because, Ryan Jamu has great striking, working with the Black Zillions, working with the beasts like Alistair Overeem, Vitor Belfort, Rashad Evans. And I believe with working with such high-level fighters, his wrestling is going to improve, and pretty much just everything is going to improve. And he's had a little bit of time over his last fight to learn from his loss. And I just see him overpowering Pekrajcek and getting a huge, huge TKO win here, and just making the Canadian crowd erupt here. So, Saad, how do you see the fight going down?
Never use the Black Zillions as a plus when talking about a fighter. Unless you're talking about Belfort.
Yeah, they're good training partners, though.
They're good training partners, but let's say that all those guys that you mentioned are coming up well.
Yeah, exactly.
They've seen better days.
Yes.
But let's talk about this fight in particular. As you mentioned, they're both looking to rebound from losses. Jimmo against Tihuna and Pekrajcek against Vinny Magalhaes. The difference is what I saw in their last performances is that Jimmo looked really good, but one thing that stood out is that he kind of started fading in the midway through the second round of his fight against Tihuna, and he in the post-fight, I guess, when they interviewed him, he said that he actually hurt his leg, and that's what made him susceptible to the takedown. And if you rewatch that fight, you'll see that he was repeatedly being taken down, and that's what pretty much lost him the fight. And he said that he got his leg hurt. And you know what? He was really close to finishing Tihuna before that happened. So you know what? I really think that Jimmo has the tools to be a real contender. He was 17-1 before that loss. Like, I think he was on a crazy 15-fight win streak or something before losing to Tihuna. So, and given that Tihuna was up there too, he just recently fought Glover. But Jimmo's not far behind. Because you know what? He almost finished that guy too. And Glover did too. So that shows, I guess, where Jimmo is. He just needs a few more wins, and I think he's going to rebound really nicely. That doesn't mean Pekrajcek is just going to lay down. Although he lost the Vinny by a pretty early submission, Pekrajcek is known for a brawler and a head made of steel. The guy will keep coming. Like, you'd be hard-pressed to knock him out. it's definitely going to be an exciting fight. I'm picking Jimmo, most likely by decision.
All right, great fight there. So next fight, we go into the co-main event. This is actually a late replacement fight. We got Roy Nelson versus Stipe Miocic, and now we haven't seen Stipe Miocic in a little while. His last fight was with Stefan Struve, and he lost that fight by KO. And I see this fight going very similarly. Roy Nelson, he's always been one of the top contenders in the heavyweight division. I just wonder what he could do at light heavyweight if he ever decides to drop. I think he'd be a great fighter down there. But anyways, we'll get back to the heavyweight fight. I see Roy Nelson knocking out Stipe Miocic. Kind of similar in the last fight. Again, the last fight we're picking with Jamu and Pekrajcek. I think that Nelson will be able to overpower. He'll be able to overpower Miocic. And like I said, just get a big KO win because Roy Nelson, he has probably one of the heaviest hands in the heavyweight division. And it's another quick turnaround fight, so it's going to be nothing for him to get back in the cage. And he didn't take pretty much any punishment at all in his last fight. So I have Roy Nelson, big KO win here in the first round. Excited Canadian crowd and get ready for the main event. So Saad, who do you think's going to win this fight here? Big heavyweight battle.
Well, at least Nelson doesn't have to cut weight. It's not like something he has to worry about. He's a heavyweight, and he probably just walks up and starts fighting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thing is, so it's not, I guess, too big of an issue for him. And the reason why he wanted to take this fight, anyways, as Dana White mentioned, it's the last fight in his contract. And he kind of wants to renegotiate in order to get more money down the road, especially because he is nearing top contendership status. But I still think he's lower than Verdum, especially given Verdum's performance last week.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't place him that high, but he's obviously maybe 5th or 6th, roughly. But onto this fight, as you mentioned, Nelson's been on a tear, knocking out guys left, right, and center because of those heavy bombs he has for hands.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, with Stipe, obviously, he's a good fighter, but his willingness to trade could really spell trouble for him. He's a really good fighter, but you know what? He can get hit, and you know what? Nelson, given those hands, he's going to knock him out, just as you mentioned. And although I know you mentioned that it's a weight replacement fight, Stipe Miocic, I think, actually had a full cap because he was fighting Saul Pereira earlier, and Pereira had to be removed from the card in order for Nelson to fill it because they needed, I guess, a higher personality, somebody that would actually draw more fans because, you know what, the star power was lacking on this card.
Mm-hmm.
If Nelson hadn't joined in, it would have been, a little lackluster, not in terms of quality of fights, but again, as I mentioned, just in terms of name value, and Nelson adds that. But you know what, even regardless of whether it was a late replacement or, he had a full training camp, I still think Nelson would win this fight just because of his hand power.
Exactly. Yeah, I think Nelson. Like I said previously, I think Roy Nelson has probably one of the pound for pound heaviest hands in all of mixed martial arts. Like, if I just wonder what he could do if he ever went down to 205. But anyways, we'll go into the main event now. We got Rashad Evans versus Dan Henderson. Now these are another fight where they're both coming off losses again. Rashad Evans to Little Nog, and then just previously before that, John Jones. No shame in the loss to John Jones, but I did see Rashad Evans beating Little Nog. And then we have Dan Henderson, who just lost to Lyoto Machida. I thought it was a good fight. It was a very close fight, but Machida did not win that fight. But I do think Dan Henderson will be able to get the win here. I think that Dan Henderson will be able to have the edge in the striking. The wrestling, I think they cancel each other out, so it's going to be a stand-up war. But I do see Henderson, getting the striking battle, winning that, getting into the clinch, putting up against the cage, getting maybe some takedowns, and who knows, maybe even giving Evans one of his big left hands. But I most likely see Dan Henderson getting an unanimous decision win here. It's just that I think Henderson's probably the number 3 guy at light heavyweight, and I just see Rashad Evans is kind of on a downfall in his career. Saad said earlier to me before we started the podcast that we don't know if Rashad has a drive anymore, and if he has a drive, this is the time to show it. But I still think Dan Henderson's going to get the win here, and hopefully maybe a couple fights away, because he said he does have unfinished business with John Jones. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. I have Dan Henderson by unanimous decision. Saad, how about you?
Yeah, it's such a tough pick. If you watch UFC Central this week, even the pros, they have a hard time picking this fight because I guess there's a lot of variables involved. First of all, I just want to mention the Dan Henderson-Lyoto Machida fight. That was a horrible fight. It was very technical, very smart, played by Machida, avoiding Dan Henderson, I guess, power. But you know what? It wasn't a great fight at all, especially for Henderson. He should have gone for broke. You know what I mean? Because that's just how Machida fights, and you are definitely not going to win the decision if Machida's fighting that way. That point fighting style, Machida's got that down pat. But you know what? He's going to rebound nicely. He didn't look horrible. He just looked like that guy had a proper game plan. Like, it was very similar to against Condit fighting, Nick Diaz. Just kind of running in and out, in and out. But Rashad Evans, on the other hand, looked horrible. But you can't have that knock against Henderson. But you can say that definitely about Evans. And one of the things he mentioned, especially in the lead up to this fight that's happening right now, he said that he has no motivation going into the Little Knock fight. That he walked into the cage, and usually there's like a drive or hunger, to get that win, to knock that guy out, to submit him, do whatever, But when he walked in, there was nothing. And that's a foreign feeling, obviously, for a fighter. It's like you had no motivation to win. And in a sport where testosterone fueled, that's very, very important. And usually if that happens, it's really hard to get that back. That hunger. It's like that Brazilian hunger, you know what I mean? These guys come from nothing and they're ready to give it all out. Evans didn't have that. And that's a really tough thing for a fighter to regain. If you can't, it's really, I guess, time to hang up the gloves, you know what I mean? It's unfortunate to say Evans has obviously been a great fighter. It really depends. He's saying that he's got that hunger back. You know what? A case could be made for that, mainly because he's fighting a legend, Dan Henderson. So maybe he could find that hunger again to fight somebody like this. But a lot of his hunger is based on the fact that he wants to be champion. And as long as Jones has the belt, it's unlikely he'll get another shot, just mainly based on how lopsided his last fight was. And he's definitely, after losing to Little Long, he's not getting a title shot anytime soon, regardless of his name value. Well, let's just break down the fight itself. I know it's going a little long, but both obviously have the wrestling pedigree. That's the thing is, Evans is the smarter game plan fighter, whereas Henderson has the H-bomb, his killer right hand that he always cocks back, ready to launch at any minute. If that lands, that the fight's over, you know what I mean? But if he can land that, lately he seems like he's been relying on it a little too much, and it's a little difficult for him to land it. He landed against Shogun. Shogun is so resilient, he can survive that. And you know what? Evans can too. He has a really good recovery rate. He showed that in so many of his fights. The only time he really, truly got knocked out, obviously, was against Lyoto Machida. So, you know what? Maybe he'll be able to take one or even two of those, and be able to recover and maybe win a decision. I think the main event's only 3 rounds. So, if it's 3 rounds, I could conceivably maybe see Henderson winning. Rashad could also win it. I'm going to pick Henderson, but you know what? Rashad could win it. It really depends on his drive today. And I really want to make this pick the day of the weigh-in, see how Evans looks. But you know what? Since I can't do that, I'm going to go with Henderson.
Awesome, yeah. It's gonna be a good fight, I believe. It should be a really exciting fight if it is only 3 rounds. They'll give it their all, and like we said, this is an extremely close fight. But we do have Dan Henderson getting the edge here. So there you have it, guys. There's our UFC 161 predictions. Again, really looking forward to my boy Sam Stout fighting in Canada again, and also Jake Shields. Another great fight on the prelim card. Saad, anything you want to say to close out the card?
Yeah, definitely check it out, or the pay-per-view if you can. If you don't, it's all good. We won't hold it against you. But you might want to check out MMA JAM.ca for any of your, updates. If you're gonna forgo the thing, I'm gonna most likely be providing the live updates after every fight to see the results. So if you want to see them, just check out the website. Yeah,
so check out MMAJAM.ca and also look up Fighter Flight D. It's another clothing company coming up. They're up and coming. They got sweaters, t-shirts. They'll be up and running very soon. I think the next prediction we got is UFC 162. That's in July. I believe that's the next fight card, right, Saad?
Yeah. Oh, man, I'm so excited for that.
Silva versus Weidman.
Yeah, I can't wait, man.
That's going to be a good one. So we'll have our predictions up then, about a week before the fight. So when you guys are looking for the best UFC predictions, come no further than MMA Talk Canada. See you later, guys.